There is a moment in every young pitcher's career that separates what they were from what they are about to become. Not the debut. Not the first strikeout. Not even the first win. The moment. The one where everything that was theoretical, the potential, the projection, the careful language scouts use when they don't want to overpromise, becomes undeniable. The one where the people watching, whether they are fans in the stands or legends who have seen everything this sport has to offer, stop asking questions about what this pitcher might be and start making statements about what he already is. For Roki Sasaki, that moment arrived in 6 innings. 1 run allowed. 7 strikeouts. A fastball that touched 162 km per hour, the kind of velocity that does not just show up on a radar gun but shows up in the hands of the hitters who cannot get around on it in time. A breaking ball that moved with the same deception that made a certain two-way superstar from the same country one of the most dominant pitchers on the planet. And when it was over, when Sasaki walked off that mound having delivered one of the most complete pitching performances of his young major league career, the legends who had been watching did not reach for cautious language. They praised him. Directly. Without qualification. This is the story of that outing. What he threw. How he used it. And why the people who have spent lifetimes understanding great pitching recognized immediately that what they were watching was not a glimpse of future potential. It was a statement of present fact. Let's begin with the fastball. Because the fastball is where everything starts with Roki Sasaki. 162 km per hour. Converted for context, just over 100 miles per hour. In the upper range of what any human arm has ever produced in a professional baseball game. Not the hardest pitch ever thrown, the record books have a small, exclusive list of names at the very top of the velocity chart, but hard enough that the conversation about Sasaki's ceiling becomes very serious, very quickly. What makes the velocity number meaningful is not the number itself. Velocity without command is noise. Velocity without movement is a challenge that professional hitters, given enough at-bats, will solve. The radar gun reading matters only when it exists alongside the other things that make a fastball genuinely difficult to hit. Sasaki's fastball has other things. The carry on his four-seamer, the way it stays elevated through the hitting zone rather than dropping the way most fastballs do at the point of contact, creates a specific optical problem for hitters. They see the pitch, they read the velocity, they commit to a swing plane, and then the ball arrives slightly higher than their hands expected. The result is not a miss, necessarily. The result is a mishit. Weak contact. A swing that felt right until the moment of impact revealed that something had been slightly, crucially wrong. 7 strikeouts across 6 innings tells you the complete story of that fastball's effectiveness. But the quality of the contact he induced on the balls that were hit, the weak grounders, the lazy fly balls, the moments where a professional hitter made solid swing decisions and still produced nothing, tells you just as much. The 162 km per hour reading is the headline. The carry, the location, the sequencing that set it up, that is the actual story underneath the headline. If the fastball is what gets hitters into trouble, the breaking ball is what keeps them there. Sasaki's breaking ball, the pitch that analysts and opposing hitters and now, increasingly, former players speaking publicly have begun to compare to the arsenal of a pitcher whose name carries enormous weight in the conversation about the greatest pitchers currently active, is not simply a compliment to the fastball. It is a weapon in its own right. The shape of it matters. The way it exits his hand in a manner that, for the first fraction of a second, is indistinguishable from the fastball, same arm speed, same release point, same trajectory out of the hand. The differentiation happens later. By the time a hitter's brain has processed that the pitch is not the fastball, the window for adjusting the swing has already closed. This is the fundamental challenge of facing Sasaki. He does not simply throw hard and then throw something different. He throws 2 pitches that look identical until they are not, and by the time they are not, the hitter has already committed. The Ohtani comparison being made by observers is not casual flattery. It is a specific technical observation about how Sasaki uses his fastball and breaking ball in combination. The way one pitch exists to create the conditions for the other. The way the sequencing is not random but deliberate, built around an understanding of how hitters process and adjust, and then designed to stay one step ahead of that process. Sasaki is 23 years old. He pitches with the sequencing intelligence of someone 10 years into a major league career. That is not normal. And the legends watching this outing noticed. 1 run. 6 innings. Let's talk about what that line actually required him to do. Because 6 innings in a major league game is not a straight line from the first pitch to the last. It is a series of moments, some comfortable, most not, where the pitcher has to solve a problem that keeps changing shape. The lineup turns over. Hitters who saw him in the first inning return with adjustments. The count gets deep. Runners reach base. The game tightens in the ways that games always tighten when good hitters are given enough at-bats to work with. Sasaki navigated all of it. The 1 run he allowed, the single blemish on an otherwise immaculate line, came in a moment where the game had tightened and the margin for error had shrunk to almost nothing. He made one mistake. One pitch that was located slightly differently than intended, that found the barrel of a bat at the exact wrong moment. He did not make a second one. That ability, to allow a run, to absorb the moment, to reset and return to the execution that had been working, is not something that shows up in the strikeout total or the velocity reading. It is a mental quality. The kind that separates pitchers who have good outings from pitchers who have complete ones. A lesser pitcher, in that same moment, compounds the mistake. The frustration of allowing the run affects the next pitch, and the next at-bat, and the inning unravels in the way that innings unravels when a pitcher is fighting himself as much as the opposing lineup. Sasaki did not fight himself. He reset. He trusted the stuff that had been working. He went back to the fastball and the breaking ball and the sequencing and the command, and he finished the inning without further damage. 6 innings. 1 run. 7 strikeouts. The line looks clean in the box score. What it required to produce that line was anything but simple. Now let's talk about the praise. Because the specific source of the praise matters as much as the praise itself. When young players perform well, they receive compliments. Coaches say encouraging things. Teammates express support. Media analysts note the positive indicators. This is the normal language that surrounds a good performance, warm, supportive, but measured by the professional awareness that one good outing is one good outing. What Sasaki received after this performance was different. The legends who spoke about his outing, players whose careers span decades, who faced the best pitchers of multiple generations, who have the context to know what exceptional looks like because they competed against it directly, did not use measured language. They were specific. They were emphatic. And they drew comparisons that, coming from anyone else, would sound like overstatement. Coming from them, those comparisons are scouting reports. When a player who faced the greatest pitchers of his era watches Sasaki's breaking ball and reaches for a specific name, a specific pitcher currently operating at the absolute peak of the sport, he is not being generous. He is being precise. He is saying, this pitch, in this pitcher's hand, at this level of execution, reminds me of something I have seen before. And what I have seen before was historically great. That is not a compliment. That is a verdict. The legends have seen enough to know the difference between a pitcher who is having a good day and a pitcher who is becoming something. They watched Sasaki's 6 innings. They watched the 162 km/h fastball carry through the zone. They watched the breaking ball arrive with that specific, devastating lateness that hitters could not solve across 6 complete innings. And they made their verdict clear. There is a version of Roki Sasaki's story that was still being written cautiously just months ago. The version that acknowledged the talent, the fastball, the breaking ball, the pedigree, the reputation built in Japan before the move to America, while maintaining the careful distance of projection. The version that said, the potential is extraordinary, and we will see. That version is no longer available. 6 innings. 1 run. 7 strikeouts. A fastball that touched 162 km per hour in a major league game against a professional lineup that prepared specifically to face him. A breaking ball that drew comparisons, from people qualified to make them, to the most dominant pitching in baseball today. And at the end of it, legends who have spent lifetimes watching great pitching deliver praise that was not cautious and not qualified and not framed in the language of potential. It was framed in the language of fact. Roki Sasaki did not walk off that mound as a prospect who had shown something promising. He walked off it as a pitcher who had delivered something real, something that existed in the box score and in the radar gun readings and in the swing decisions of professional hitters who could not solve him for 6 complete innings. The statement has been made. By the performance. By the numbers. And now, by the legends.